listening to 99.1 Shap Radio, and this is the Gen Z guys. Right here is Noah Villarreal,
Keenan Abdi.
and today we're going to be going into some pretty extreme topics. We're coming back from spring break this week. This is the first show back.
Yep.
And Keenan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just excited to be here, and thanks for inviting me again. The last broadcast was really nice.
Yeah, we always appreciate having you on. And if you ever want to come on, just message us at our Instagram at the Gen Z_guys. And you can also find us at our YouTube where you can listen to this. Our YouTube channel is also the Gen Z guys, which is a channel that we started and a radio show that we started where us kids ourselves from the generation of Z, we give you our opinions over topics that's going on in our current day situations. And so going in today, these are some of the topics that happened over spring break while we were away. The first one was now in our generation, I saw that there's a percentage that less than half of 45% of Americans from the millennials and Generation Z are starting to view capitalism as like not a positive, or that 45% views capitalism as a positive thing, but the other half doesn't. So that's like 55%. So, and that's a pretty big percentage, and which is like our economy that the United States uses.
True.
And what that other half percentage really wants now is to start leaning towards the socialism economy, which I don't agree with. But let's hear your take on that.
Well, I think for my personal, I think capitalism should be more viewed, more used, because socialism. For one example, like I've studied for today, I researched that socialism kind of like, even though kind of makes sense, but it doesn't work as well as capitalism. Because one country that was like back in the day, we used to be rich, Venezuela. When they turned into socialist country, their economy went down. But I know where other people are coming from. In today's world, everything is getting expensive. Just the TV, like buying a TV and an iPhone and stuff like that. I know what other people are thinking of maybe switching, becoming a socialist country.
Yeah, no, I definitely saw that too. Like when I watched I read a couple articles and I watched a couple videos that the cost of living has definitely go up. Like I saw that the cost of middle class is like now 30% higher than it was like back in like the 1980s.
Wow.
Which is a huge percentage. I mean, I can understand where our generation is coming from, because I do agree, like just the way we live now, especially with technology, it's become more expensive. And I think that's kind of like I think that's what also influenced why prices have gone up in our capitalism economy, was because the advancement of technology.
That's true.
With iPhones, Amazon Prime, and like ordering stuff through online, MacBooks, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Apple Music, all of that is like advanced in technology to where it's now it's becoming like stuff like cable and like radio becoming obsolete. And since those are those are what the consumers want, it starts to become expensive. And one thing I was looking at is you don't think that having like a lot of like okay, let's say you have HBO, Hulu, Spotify, Netflix, Showtime, Amazon Prime, you have all those things and it starts to add up. And I think what a lot of people or a lot of our generation aren't understanding is like, I don't think they're understanding just how to budget the money.
That's true.
That they're earning, because a lot of people like now are complaining about the wages that that we get through like our work system, through labor, because they're saying that it's too low. Because I remember our teammate Tristan, he was telling me that the wage cost in Arizona is much higher than it is in Texas.
How much do you think it is? Did he tell you the percentage?
Okay, so for him, I'm just gonna do based off Chick-fil-A. So he was working at Chick-fil-A, and he was getting paid like $11.23 an hour. Like he said, that was kind of like the the median, the average.
Okay.
Versus where like here in Texas, your minimum wage could possibly be like 723, 850, which I mean, and the thing is, I get like it is true, and in some situations you can't like you won't be able to live on your own. But I don't think a socialism economy can help anyone with that.
That's true. And also, when I lived in Portland, Oregon, I used to work at when I was 16 years old, I used to work at Burger King. Yeah.
Everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Flipping Whoppers, I guess. Yeah. So basically, the minimum wage over there was 12. I think that year was 2016. But then when I went back for last summer, I think the minimum wage over there was 14 and 15.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, like over here in Texas, you like our minimum wage. It like I think I was working at because I used to work at a Vietnamese restaurant, and like my minimum wage was like only like hourly if I worked in the back like $8.23.
Okay.
Like that's nothing compared to what you're getting paid. And even when my brother worked at McDonald's, like he was getting paid like maybe like $9.50. And then even when I was a lifeguard, I was only getting paid like 10 or 10.20 that is an hour, which is like crazy. And like now you see most of the people in our generation demanding for like higher wages just because, especially like if like college students like us, some of them will like go out and live in apartments and they need to hold a stable job in order to pay for the rent and also pay for college. And like this all didn't start until like that one Bernie Sanders was trying to run for president because he wanted to give like free healthcare, free college. But the problem with that is that with what comes with free healthcare and like free college is that who's gonna pay for it? You know, our taxes of living are gonna end up going like they're gonna end up increasing like exponentially, which we may not even be able to pay for. So I mean, I just don't think socialism is the way to go, but I do understand where people are coming from because, you know, and even for people that like, immigrants that live here, you know, they're on the low income side of living.
True.
But they want healthcare and they need, I mean, but even though they're not a citizen, they're still able to get it, but they're paying a super amount of money because it's a free market. So the person in charge of that healthcare controls it.
True. Yeah, I think I experienced that since I'm an immigrant. You know, we came through that process as well, and also like you're saying, Bernie Sanders, like, you know, trying to like maybe like who's gonna pay for it. When I was in Oregon, you know, like when I was getting all that much, like $15 an hour, I was expecting to get, you know, a lot of money at the end, but actually this tax thing, it's a lot, and if it continues to increase, I don't think other people, the working class, will be happy about it. Yeah, it's already high. So in some areas, it's already high. So I don't think it's a good idea to do that.
But then again, I mean, to argue against capitalism, socialism, like the state, like it's where the state, the government controls the economy.
True.
I mean, socialism, like when the government, they can actually give jobs to people like that are on the low income side. Like they provide a job for them. Versus where like even in America, it can sometimes be hard to like get a job because you don't have a high school diploma, a college degree, and like that can sometimes, and you know, college isn't for everyone. Like school may not be for anyone.
That's true.
For some people, and they end up leaving school, and so they have to find like a way to how to like live and pay for them. With socialism, they're able to provide jobs for those kind of people to get them to work. But with taxes, I mean. Because with socialism, you know, it's pretty much taking all the income from the rich and giving to like the lower income, which in this economy, like in our country, that can be like it's not viewed as a good thing because a lot of those wealthy people, they've worked for that money, and I can definitely say like, I mean, this is just my mom's opinion, but she's gotten mad a couple of times where like she's having to pay high taxes because she worked hard for that money.
I've seen
and she's trying to provide for us.
That's true. Like I've seen a couple of videos like that, you know, some people that are against that, you know, socialist act and stuff, and also like in some areas as well, like countries that have socialism economy, like Brazil, Ecuador, and Armenia. Like if you look at their economy, it's not doing good. Only some people are doing good, especially the elite are only doing good, but the rest of the people are suffering from all that stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, you look at countries like Sweden and like I wouldn't say Greece, like probably like Sweden, either Italy, and Britain. Their school system, because a lot of their like high taxes goes towards the school system.
Yes.
Their school system is not controlled by the government, so they're able to. With their school system, they're able to equal the playing field for everyone. They have a thing where like, and actually their dropout rate, because we have like a huge dropout rate. I think last time I checked, it was like 58% or like 73%. Because I think I remember I checked, like we learned about it in psychology. So their dropout rates, like our dropout rates, like that high. In Sweden, where the school system controlled by the school system, they don't have a dropout rate. They believe in like the actual term where like no child's left behind, because what they do with their high taxes going towards that system is like kind of like alternative school here, where like they kind of just focus on how you learn. That's what they do for everyone over there.
Okay.
And so I think because of that, you're able, like, you don't see a lot of lower income people to begin with. So I think if we wanted to see a better way of like how we can, like how our generation and some of the millennials can like live, is I think it has to go towards the school system, because a lot of this complaints comes from like immigrants or like people that only have like a diploma, or like even when they don't go to college, like they can't be able to afford to live on their own. I mean, which is understandable, because I mean, when we have a lot of consumerism now in this time where a lot of the free market like are able to raise their prices however they want, but I mean it can be inflated. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely arguments on both sides, but I think with capitalism, it provides more independence and freedom from like the government, and to be able to like, it's something that you worked hard for in your business, and that you're able to keep for yourself, instead of having to like, I mean, it's morally good to like give back, but give back with like your service, not with your money.
That's true. And also, in my history class, we also discussed about a little bit of capitalism. We studied a guy named Adam Smith. He was an 18th century teacher, philosopher, and also he was widely known as the classical economics. Like he was known for economics, and he wrote a book called An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nation. Basically, it says that the government should stay out of the market.
Yeah,
because back then, like in the Western countries, like Europe, it was struggling with a lot of the money, especially the government were like greedy about it.
Yeah.
But once you should pass this book, it changed everything. Actually turned the whole economy around. Actually, Britain's I don't think they're socialist anymore. Do you think too? But I believe
they
that
have some socialist aspects.
Oh, okay. So capitalism, like it helped a lot of countries develop.
Yeah, their debt.
Like it helped with their debts. But I don't know, like socialism, like most countries are suffering from this act of like this economy of socialism, because like the elites are just kind of getting most of the things, but the
elites is mostly the government.
Yeah, that's true. And the poor is like suffering the most. So yeah, that's it's a really hard argument, but I like from my perspective, I'll choose capitalism.
But even then, with capitalism, because in in America's history, we had that Great Depression where, and the problem with that, and like we even had the market crash of 2008. With that, it's just a lot of consumerism could end up being way too high, to where people aren't making enough money to buy things. So that ends up making the market crash, where people aren't buying, like they can't afford to buy things, which we could end up seeing, because that's what a lot of our generation is complaining about. And with that, like, I mean, we could see like another market crash, just because in the 2008 market crash, it was mainly just over like real estate, where a lot of people were purchasing real estate, like houses that like they were taking loans out of the bank where they weren't able to afford it.
True.
Which is like a bad thing, because the thing is, they were spending more than what they were making. And the problem with that, and with our generation, I can definitely say that we spend a lot more than what we're making,
True.
which is why I say like a lot of our, which is the first problem comes from the school system, you know, educating us on how to actually like budget our money, like how to like pretty much personal finance.
Okay.
Because a lot of schools like they teach us economics from like a semester, but they don't really teach us. They just teach us how the economy works.
True.
They don't teach us how to like write checks, how to take out loans the right way, how to budget our money, how to make a set budget for how much we're earning. And I think with that is just, I don't think we should be asking for higher wage. I think we should just be working on how to save money and spend the right way. And don't get me wrong, like I said, consumerism helps the economy. It balances it out, but we need to also look at how much we're making from our jobs to see if we're able to afford like certain stuff.
True. And you're right, like especially if they're, you know, the school system. When I came to America, I didn't know a whole lot of, you know, the stuff. When I went to high school, we had like only a semester. No semester, I didn't learn a lot about the economics and stuff. So basically, I didn't know a whole lot, like you know, writing checks and how to really budget your money and stuff. So basically, I think last semester you kind of helped me with some of those, like writing a check. So it was like it was a struggle.
Yeah,
but
the thing is like our school, like the schools, like they don't teach us that.
True.
Because our school system's controlled by the government, to where the government has us to take these certain tests, like aptitude tests, such as like not SAT but STAR tests, to where it doesn't help us.
True.
They're just trying to see like what everything we've learned from like either like basic like math, reading, writing. They just want to see how much we've learned, and it doesn't mean with that score they pretty much do nothing. And what I've seen in the past couple of years is they keep lowering that pass rating score. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be working on how can we increase a pass rate.
True.
And decrease the dropout rate. And the thing is, a lot of people say like going to alternative school is not like such a bad thing. It shouldn't be looked as a bad thing. It just means that kid he has a hard time learning with a big environment. He needs to that kid probably just needs to be learning something like his learning is just different. His learning style is different, and then someone just needs to an individual just needs to focus on that.
True.
So I think it just starts with our school system first, before like we start asking like the changes to our economy.
That's right.
All right, going to another problem with our generation. Recently, there was a whole scandal through the SAT and ACT tests.
Really?
Dude, it comes from like big schools such as Yale, like school. Okay, so the whole situation was this guy named Singer. I don't know his first name. I just know his name's Singer, and apparently he is being charged with it's a count of racketeering.
Okay.
Because he had this business where pretty much people like parents would pay him to either create a fake athletic profile for their kid, and sometimes they weren't even in the sports.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so he'd pretty much create a fake athletic profile for them, and then these parents were paying like $15,000 to $75,000 just for this guy to have their student or have their kids pretty much get an SAT test, take the test, but then send it over to I guess the head SAT where like they do the grading, and he'd pretty much bribe like $50,000 to the person who had the test and switch out the answers.
Okay.
So pretty much they were just cheating their way into colleges such as like Georgetown, Stanford, Yale, University of California, Los Angeles, University of San Diego, USC, University of Texas, Wake Forest. Yeah, a lot of those.
Well, it's crazy. Like, okay, why are the parents doing this? I know, like, you know, they want their kids to go to like a big school, but why? Are they not? They're not challenging. They're like, taking their showing their kids to do this kind of like, way like it's like excuses. So basically, they're not challenging their kids to become dependent and actually take care of the things, like actually take the test and actually do well.
Yeah, and like
if
practice
they go to,
for it.
if they go to school, like big big schools, especially like that, they will face a lot, way much challenge than the lower.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said too. I was like, if you're cheating yourself into college, like, I mean, you barely know the work. You barely did the work to begin with. You're gonna even have a harder time when all that workload that you go to the classes in that school like comes onto you. You're not gonna know what to do.
Like, how long was this going on? Like, what was it going for?
They said like 2 or 4 years. They said no. They said it probably was going on since 2016.
And no one found out about
They
this?
didn't find out till recently because the FBI was investigating it under the name of Varsity Blues. And so, and the thing is, my thing is like, if you're paying for like $15,000 to $75,000 just to get a fake test for your kid to get into like the most prestigious schools, you obviously have enough money to pay for their school just to go to like a regular college. Like, I mean, you don't have to just go to like those big name schools. There's other prestigious colleges out there,
Right.
that maybe like your kid could possibly get into with a better chance and better learning environment.
That's true.
But with this, and like, it's crazy because and what's even crazy is that a lot of so like, you know how I was telling you they'd make like fake athletic profiles. They were some like, this dude was also bribing like the coaches at these schools.
Wow.
So here's one, like Singer was pretty much he bribed the Yale's women's soccer coach.
So wait, I just want to ask you a real quick question.
What's up?
Were the coaches okay with this?
Yeah, because what we saw is that it was mainly just like a lot of coaches that weren't getting paid like the big bucks, like the football or basketball coaches.
Okay.
It was like the lower end, like where like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like track coaches or cross country coaches getting like taking the bribes too, because one of the coaches that like was recently fired was the University of Texas tennis coach. He was put on like he was told to leave because he was caught taking bribes for fake athletic profiles for students to seem like, you know, recognizable for them to come to the school as like tennis recruiters or tennis recruitments, but they never played tennis in their life.
Wow. I just have no words for this. Like, okay, I just like how the other kids that are like actually doing the SAT the right way feel about this. Like, I just want to know that. It's crazy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they'd probably be mad because they actually had to work. They had to do the work just to get into those schools.
That's true.
And honestly, these kids that were actually cheating themselves in, they could have probably been put like before those other kids that actually did the work, that actually got the high scores on the SATs. True. So that probably could have happened. But like now with this situation, it kind of ruins like it makes these colleges seem not reputable to go to anymore.
True.
So they're pretty much, it's hurting themselves. But I mean, and that's another thing too, is like, you know, if obviously like it was easy to bribe someone in the SAT or ACT system to just switch the answers, it makes you think like, should colleges make another way on how students should be admitted?
I think that's the only choice if they're doing this. I mean, if the people who control the SAT actually find out who the people who are doing this, I guess we could the SAT will be fine. But if there's no way to stop people from doing this, I guess there's no choice but to make another.
Yeah, to make another test, because pretty much the SAT and ACT, it's an achievement test to like show how much the kid has learned throughout the years.
True.
I mean, but at this point, you have to ask, does it become unreliable at this point? Because obviously, I mean, money talks. Money can get you anything.
That's right.
And so and you're not gonna believe this, one of the parents that was caught was, I don't know if you ever seen Full House.
Full House? No, I haven't.
Well, for those like that are out, it was what is her name? Lori Loughlin, or I think that's how you say her last name. She was the mom on pretty much Full House, married to Jesse, John Stamos' character. Pretty much she was being charged with she's also being charged with this crime because she spent like $200,000 to $65 million to ensure that her child received like the admission. And the thing is, like, because her child, like her daughter, like she got 2 daughters in through this, and she came out and said that like she created like fake like rowing team athletic profiles for them. They never rowed a boat in their life.
Like 200,000. That's how much she paid for their.
Yeah. And the thing is,
gosh.
she's a donor to the school. Okay, so she got him into UCS. She's a donor to that school. You could have just donated money just so then be like, hey, I'm gonna donate this much amount to you. Can you just let my kid get in, if they want to? I mean, it shouldn't even be that hard. But the thing is, like, one of her daughters has like a YouTube account, so she had to come out and say like how she never even wanted to go to school. And the thing, it's like at that point, it's like, well, your parent pretty much just forced you to do this, and like now they're possibly being put in jail. I don't know. It's just crazy. Like, I never thought this would happen. Like, one of the things that my cousin even told me was someone from the ACU track team. His picture was used for one of those fake athletic profiles.
No way.
Yeah. God. They ended up calling him, and you know, they had to tell him like, hey, this happened. This is the whole situation. And the thing is, my thing is like, I would tell him to sue because it's pretty much identity. True. It's identity theft.
Yeah, that's not right to actually steal someone's like identity, like to and then to just kind of like.
I'm more mad about like creating the fake athletic profiles because some of these profiles they were using like pictures from like other like great pretty good high school athletes.
True.
They were using like their stats and like their pictures just to make these other kids seem more recognizable to get into these schools.
True.
Which is crazy because I mean, you're pretty much someone out there could have been using your pictures just to get into college. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I never thought this would happen, but I mean, it did. And then moving on, we're gonna talk about, because I learned a lot just over listening to podcasts, is just different athletes. We're gonna talk about like when does a championship mindset become unhealthy?
Wow.
Because honestly, kind of like how I got into this was like reason why I want to bring up this topic because I was recently listening to like Joe Rogan and Dr. Phil's podcast, and on their podcasts they're talking about like they're interviewing like Tony Romo and Mike Tyson, and one of the things that like that Tony Romo has said, like, you know, he was the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. He was pretty good. Like, he had really good stats. It's just that at the time he just didn't have the team and he faced a lot of injuries.
True.
One of the things that he said was like, you know, whenever he lost a game, he'd remember like certain interceptions and he'd go home and like he wouldn't even sleep that whole night just because he'd pretty much go home after a lose and he'd probably think like the other team thinks that they're better than him, which completely destroyed him.
True.
I mean, I can see how that, like, I mean, I've dealt with this a lot in my life just because, you know, you go to sleep. I mean, you can't even fall asleep because you're constantly thinking about this person thinks they're better than me.
Right.
But I put in the more work. Like, why isn't this working? Why isn't it not going my way?
Yes.
And sometimes he'd go to the stadium like at 1:00 and just throw constant like passes just so he can get it right to see just why it went wrong. And so like, and what Dr. Phil was saying, just like, he was just asking like, when does this become unhealthy? You know?
For me, I think, I mean, waking up early in the morning, like, you know, at 1 p.m., I don't think, I mean, that might be unhealthy if it's doing repetitive, like night after night after night.
Yeah.
But I think the unhealthy part is like when you think about it the whole time and like start like, you know,
it becomes an obsession.
Yeah, obsession. And also, if you just like doubt yourself the whole time and like just became angry with yourself because like, I mean, it's true. I kind of have this feeling. I won't lie. I had this feeling beginning of the season, like cross country season. Well, I thought that I was gonna beat some of the guys that went in front of me, but you know, after thinking for a while, calling my parents and like just talking to them, like at the end of the night, I knew I tried my best, and that, you know, if my best was not good enough, all I can do is just improve by like learning from it. Not just like spend the whole night or like the whole day just thinking about how I could have done better.
Yeah, because even what Mike Tyson was saying is that like, because he was talking about one time during a sparring training session, after the session they interviewed him, he was telling them like, yeah, it didn't go well. Like it wasn't. He was a big perfectionist, and from Mike Tyson's background, he didn't come from the greatest families.
True.
And he had like a hard time. He was actually in jail as like a 15-year-old.
Really?
Yeah. And then pretty much Muhammad Ali's coach found Mike Tyson. He started training him. But like the thing is, what this coach started like implementing into his like young mind is that you have to keep pushing. You have like he was pretty much training him to be a machine, just to keep constantly going and just keep constantly training and pushing. And the consequence that can sometimes come with this is you end up overtraining and you end up starting to go down. Because
Right.
like one thing that Joe Rogan was saying was with some MMA fighters or like kickboxers, they do camps, and they train for that camp, but you have to because you have to build up to it. Sometimes these camps will only last like maybe 6 weeks, which is like ideal because he was saying that even sometimes in MMA that you can overtrain and then you just end up losing all your you end up having muscle tears, injuries.
True.
And that like you just overtrain yourself, and because he said some like the longest training camps will go for like 12 weeks, and that's only if you can handle it. And those are usually like the people that are like asking for more and more, and they want to keep pushing, but like, it becomes unhealthy.
Like it's funny, like beginning of like when you brought up Mike Tyson. I still remember the fight that he bit off that other dude's ear.
Yeah.
But like for you telling me this, like how he grew up from a hard background. I did not know that he was in jail at the age of 15.
Yeah.
That's like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, he had a hard life.
But like training like that, I don't know. Like it's a bit too much. Like just doing like, especially working on a kid that young. I think the body is not ready to like actually do that much amount of training at that time. So yeah.
And like to add on, he had to do it because in some situations like it's their only way out. Is that they have to keep going.
That's
For him, boxing was his only way out, and that's when he became a pro at 19. And he was destroying people. Like they ended up nicknaming him the Iron Fist, but like he was like 5'11" at like 220 pounds. I mean, this was his only way out, and he just had to like he had to constantly keep fighting, like keep feeding his ego just so then he can be the best and just actually like afford to live. And like, I mean, and the thing is, we recently watched like a Kenyan documentary and some like about Kenyan runners.
True.
And sometimes in certain areas, becoming a professional athlete is like their only way out and the only way to live and then make a living. This one guy during the documentary is that he has to, what was he was training for like 2 hours a day and then working in the fields for like 5 or 6 hours and no rest, like very little. He'd eat very little and just
so basically this guy he was basically running like 120 plus miles a week. And then it says he said that he worked 4 hours, so basically he was not getting enough rest to like to restore his body. And also he talked about how the documentary talked about how he only had 1 day meal because he wasn't rich. He was poor. It's just like he was on the downside, like the lower side, the lowest part. So yeah, it's crazy how he has that hunger in him, like how bad he wants to become an Olympian to make it to the top so he can like provide for himself. So that's why because he has no other choice, because you can't in Kenya, because I grew up in Kenya, there's not a lot of good jobs out there that will pay you well, because the only jobs out there is just working fields. Like you just work in the fields and you get paid like 250 shillings and that much money. It's like basically like less than $4, I think. So he's not getting enough, so that's why he has this hunger in him that he wants to be out there and be noticed, and so he can just become like Olympian.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it sucks to hear that like in those situations, like it's literally their only way out. But even just seeing Tony Romo, I mean, he he went to, where was it, University of Illinois, like small school, he said, and he never thought he would go play for the Dallas Cowboys because he said that his first contract was like, or no, he went in as a non-agent recruitment, and so I think after a couple or year or two, that's when they finally offered him a contract of like $4 million for 2 years, and then eventually he became the number one or the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. But I mean, it gets to a point where like you start becoming desperate. Like I can definitely say like in cross country and track, there are certain times where like I'd be pushing a lot. True. And just I want more, and I wanted more, and if I was injured, I wanted to come back quick because I needed to feel achievement. Okay. I needed that satisfaction to actually be good and just get recognized. And for some people, I mean, I can agree. I think some people can agree. It's hard to sometimes be recognized by like sometimes your teammates or your coaches because they constantly put in the work, and they constantly like stress about this. And they just think about it every night about like, why can't I just have that perfect fight, that perfect throw, perfect race, perfect anything. And I think for me, once I kind of started seeing that it was an unhealthy thing for me, was because over the summer I'd work all day, or I'd run in the morning like at 6 to 7, and then I'd go to work at like 12 in the hot sun till 9, being a lifeguard, and then sometimes I'd have to double. Because for me, I needed that number of satisfaction that I just got 70 or 80 miles a week. And sometimes that required like running twice a day. True. And sometimes after work, I just push myself. I physically would push and mentally push myself to just, even at 10 o'clock at night, just go run and get the mileage in. True.
So basically, you're putting so much work that you don't have enough time to rest, and I don't know the right word. It's just have the time to rest and actually
recover.
Yeah, recover. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I mean, I saw in myself that it was mentally destroying me because I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was constantly frustrated and worrying about like, why can't it just happen?
True.
And I think there comes a point where it just becomes I think the point where it comes to unhealthy is where you start making unhealthy choices. True. Where you start cutting off family or friend ties because you want to focus on just achieving this one goal that's so important to you that will it has to feed your ego.
True.
And then even like when it comes to desperation, we see in Kenya that, or even just now in pro sports and endurance sports, they end up taking like EPO or like steroids because they need, this is the only way they can compete. This is the only way they can keep up. And so I can see where they're coming from, but I think that's where it starts to become unhealthy, is where you start making unhealthy choices in your life.
So that's right. And watching that documentary about the guy, how he wants to become an EPO. He also talks about, how there's so many people using that type of drugs to like, actually get out there, because there's so many good runners in Kenya. And if you want to become the best, you got to train hard or use EPO. But it's just, but the guy didn't, wanted to use EPO because EPO kind of actually affects you long term.
How does that do it?
I think it's like, heart, or also I think heart disease. Like it gives you a heart disease because like it also talked about how this guy that he was a pro runner. He was like he got a lot of money, and but then like he died so young at the age of 33.
Oh shoot.
Yes. So basically, EPO is just like, I mean, it might it might help you kind of put yourself out there, but
in the end, is it worth it?
Yeah, is it worth it?
Yeah, because I saw, and a lot of controversy came from one of the running groups that I'm well aware of, or Nike Oregon Project, because in the past they've had controversy against like the head coach giving their athletes like EPO or like substances to help them recover. And the thing is, in the running society, EPO and just steroids, it's not enhancing your performance. It's just making the recovery process faster.
Right. Yes.
And so one of the things that like they tested for that one of the runners Galen Rupp was using was like an inhaler for his asthma, and it was obviously it was an EPO, and it wasn't documented. So they ended up testing it, and they said that it was a possible case that can cause cancer at a young age.
Wow.
And so the thing is like, and what kind of like hurts them at the time when they find out about this is that they have to stop using it, and it hurts their performance because they end up saying like, well, I've been using it this whole time. Like, what else am I supposed to do?
True.
And so, like I said, I mean, that's where the desperation comes in. And then even with the whole thing with like, you start to forget when you only focus on this certain goal that you have, just to become the greatest. You start to forget about the people around you that are important.
Right.
Because like one thing that Mike Tyson said was that, during his age of boxing, like he was big and like he spent all his time in the gym and just training, waking up super early to get the run in just to stay ahead of the other boxers. That he ended up forgetting about his children's childhood.
Wow.
And I think like sometimes with most athletes, they tend to forget about that. And one of the things that he said, he regrets that moment because I mean, most of the time their kids or his kids would just see him from like a boxing ring. They never like, he wouldn't normally like put him to bed or like, do anything with them. And so he's constantly apologizing to them. And I think, and he said like, I think they know that it was just his only way of just being successful.
True. And actually, I kind of faced this kind of problem beginning of this semester and the end of last semester, because there was times where like, I actually want to focus on running and a little bit of school that I forgot to, actually talk to my family for like a week or a week and a half.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I don't realize it. But then like, when my mom, and my dad calls me or my brothers call me, just let me know that, it's been a long time since I talked to them. Like I actually feel bad, like, because, like I feel like I forgot about them that I haven't even realized because I was so occupied of doing these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you're right. That's another things that, that can be, that's unhealthy, that, focusing on one thing so much that, actually forgetting about your surroundings.
Yeah. And that's not even just family. Like sometimes like it'll just be like school.
True.
And like just other hobbies that you have. Because I know I was watching an interview with a young Stanford runner named Grant Fisher, and he was doing an interview where like I think he had got like fifth or like, and it's been just a constant ride for him of like not not really much improving. And he did an interview and he's saying like, there's a realization where he had to like, this is coming from him, a quote from him. It was a realization that I had to realize what was important to me, because he said he was doing a lot of schoolwork and staying really late up at night, doing schoolwork, and then also, running full time. And he came to the realization that like, he said running is his priority.
True.
But the problem I had was that is like, well, even with most athletes, like, well, what do you do once, that sport's over? You put so much time and like focus onto this that you forgot about everything else. Like, what do you do with your life now? Like, how do you feed that ego? And so, I mean, I think that's where like it kind of comes into where like you kind of see like older athletes, like retired athletes, they start to like kind of go on a bend, or they're spending a lot of money on either like cars, drugs, or like they end up like putting themselves in like a hole where they're spending so much money because they need something to like to satisfy that successness.
I did not really know about that. How the retired runner athletes, whatever, usually use drugs or like spend a lot of their money fast like that way.
Oh yeah, because I mean they don't know what to do once it's over.
Right.
Because one of the things that Tony Romo said, when he was finally retiring from football, he said it was hard. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's gonna be hard regardless. True. Just because you spent your whole life doing this. And now he's like a football broadcaster, and I think he said that he enjoys doing this more because he's still talking about the thing he loves. But and I'm pretty sure he wished that he can go back.
True.
And like just be the quarterback. But I mean, there's a time where you kind of you have to hang it up.
Right. Yeah, but like when he retired, I actually was kind of like mad. I mean, like not mad. It's just like sad because he
never got that championship that he wanted. And like he was, like I said, he was a good quarterback. It's just he didn't have the team at the time.
Right. And also like the way that he was like I mean he was a really good quarterback in my my eyes. He was really
and the stats show.
But the way that his last 2 to 3 years that turned out everyone has like a bad game. That's right. But like like the fans were constantly.
Yeah, they're
like, they were
always
just,
blaming him.
They were always blaming him.
Yeah, because like they blame him for like whenever they get to like the conference games, like they'd always lose to their like rival conference because, I mean, it wasn't his fault. It's just like that's just didn't have the players at the time, didn't have the right plays. I mean, didn't have the good enough coverage. I mean, it happens. And then yeah, even like his last 2 years, like he was kind of like put aside because that's when Dak Prescott and like Ezekiel Elliott kind of started taking over.
That's true. Like when Dak Prescott came to the team, like, you know, his rookie year, like everybody just like
They jumped on, they
on him,
bandwagon.
because like they actually forgot about Tony.
Yeah.
You know, the guy that, you know, who was there for like decades, that, you know, actually kind of like was helping Cowboys
Develop as a team.
Because, you know, in the 90s, you know, the Cowboys were like #1 every time. They won a lot of Super Bowls, but, you know, since then the Cowboys were like relevant. No one knew of them. But,
Yeah,
like,
no one really wanted to choose them as their team.
But then when Dak Prescott came to the, you know, team, like everybody just completely forgot about Tony Romo, and I think that's one of the reasons that, you know, Tony Romo kind of like started developing these things, like, you know, his performance, like, you know, he thinks that, you know, whatever he's doing is not, you know,
He's not good enough. Yeah.
So I guess his only solution was just to retire.
And you know, I mean, and that's not a bad. It's not a bad thing. It's, you know, it's passing the torch on.
That's true.
And like, I mean, he kind of said like, you know, and it's just even with David Beckham, because I remember my friend Chris had told me about this. They asked David Beckham, he was like, "When did you know it was the right time to retire?" And David Beckham said, "When Lionel Messi passed through me, like I was nothing."
Yes.
I mean, and sometimes like I said, age becomes a factor of like when you have to retire.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing. You know, it just means that it's your time. Like you've done your time, you've done your work, you made it. Like you're successful already.
Right.
It's time to just hang it up and let the next generation come in.
That's true.
Because even, I mean, don't get me wrong, like Dak, he's a young quarterback player, and even Ezekiel, he's a young running back. They have like one more year on their contract, but you know, Dak will never. He won't be like Tony Romo because Dak he doesn't read the field as well as Tony Romo did.
Right.
Like you hear Tony Romo in the box, and you hear like he's able to like he's so accurate like with when he's reading a play and how it's gonna happen before they even hike the ball.
That's true. So he changes the formation of the plays before, you know. That's true. And also, I want to ask you like, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, it's like the last year.
Yeah.
Basically. But who do you think that the Cowboys will resign? Do you think they will resign both or
no?
Or
I
just
think
one?
I think they're gonna resign just Ezekiel Elliott because, like I said, Dak he can't read the field, and they've kind of just been doing the running game more than they throw passes.
Right.
And that's the thing too, is like Tony, he was able to throw the passes. But like Dak is just whenever he throws it, it's like
it's not accurate.
No, it's not that you just can't get rid of the ball quick enough, and he's not. I mean, he's just not on target. It's not accurate. Yeah.
Like his rookie year, he was doing good, but then after he kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
and the thing is, you kind of see that with most rookies, to be honest.
That's right.
Because a lot of people are going to be looking at how Patrick Mahomes performs next season.
Patrick Mahomes, yes. I think Patrick Mahomes will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely he's won up more than Dak Prescott just because he did baseball.
That's true.
And you know, and like when you throw baseball, you're like you have to be super accurate, and you know he has a good you have to have a strong arm to throw like 97 miles per hour ball.
Right.
And so like I mean, since Patrick Mahomes has that skill, he's able to throw like certain throws, like side throws that like a lot of quarterbacks can't throw, and like, he's able to use his body to get in that form just because he's having to do it with a baseball.
Right.
But yeah, no, like I said, I mean with a championship mindset, I mean there comes a lot of cost. Like you want to be the best, but sometimes once it starts becoming unhealthy, is like when you start making unhealthy choices, you forget about who's important in your life. You start becoming too desperate to just want to be good enough. And don't get me wrong, like sometimes I feel like, you know, I want to keep pushing. Like I want to be, like sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'm being transparent right now. I want to be up there with you like I used to be like at the beginning of the semester. Right. And it's been hard for me to kind of get back there because, you know, I kind of felt like that I've been held back, or like even during cross country season, I felt like I was just being dragged through the dirt as the seventh man. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think that's when I kind of realized like, okay, I think I need to take a step back and just reevaluate everything and just, you know, take time away and just, you know, kind of reset. And then I think once you hit the reset and just kind of come at it with a new approach of just like, you know, I won't always be the best, but I mean, I can at least just do it as I told. And then if I can every now and then get ahead, like be a step ahead of someone. And I mean, I think I'd be more satisfied with that.
That's
All right. So last topic of the day, or a quick one. What do you think about March Madness coming up now? Who do you got? Who do you got, man?
Tennessee and Duke. All the way.
Okay, I do think Duke will go to the finals, but I don't think it'd be Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I think Virginia.
Why do you think Tennessee won't make it?
They lost to Kentucky.
They lost to Kentucky.
But then they play again though, right?
Yeah, I think they got their revenge. But they like the game that kind of like, you know, that kind of made me kind of upset was when they played against Auburn. Auburn was not ranked, and they still found a way to beat Tennessee. I'm like, how does this happen?
Yeah, you see a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. You know, little teams kind of have those.
They have those moments because like last year we saw with Loyola.
The true.
And then even like last year, like Virginia, I think was like the second number one. Shoot, Virginia's losing right now.
Really?
33-25 against Gardner Webb. Oh man, come on. All right, well,
team.
Honestly, dude, already like the brackets have already been like screwed up.
True.
Like to get the perfect bracket, it's like 1 in like billion or trillion. It's like your chances of getting the perfect bracket is like less than you winning a lottery.
You know the thing that I just realized that nobody has won the bracket yet. No one.
Yeah.
Like no one has won the tournament bracket, whatever.
Dude, because it's like I said, it's so hard. Like it's like completely random. But and then what was I gonna say?
Yeah.
And then Oklahoma and Ole Miss. Dude, the final was like 95-72.
Ooh. That's something.
But you know what? You know we should feel bad right now.
Why?
Because we're not going for like our home college team, Texas Tech.
Texas Tech?
Yeah. Honestly, last year they did really good because I think they got to the Sweet 16, right?
I think so.
I think that's like, or maybe it could have been the Elite 8. I don't know. Someone fact check for me, but or comment in the section like what they got. But yeah, they did really good, and I think that was like their highest record of like how well they did in the whole season. Like that was like a season's best.
I think Texas Tech. I mean, they do have really good squad this year, but I guess they didn't have the good chemistry as they did last year because they're kind of like coming to the tournament. They were playing I think Northern Kentucky. I would say. They were last before we left our dorms.
The final was 72-57.
Oh,
so yeah, Texas Tech came back.
Okay,
quick.
That's good because I was about to say.
I know, yeah, I was kind of getting scared too. But I'm trying to check the rankings right now to see if they even changed. But yeah, keep going, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited for this year. The brackets and the teams as well. Maybe Duke might win it all. If it's not Duke or Tennessee.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying Duke are gonna. Okay, so here's the rankings so far right now. It's Duke at number 1. Virginia is still number 2. Okay, so so Duke is 29-5, then Virginia is 29-3, and then University of North Carolina, they could probably be the dark horse, yeah. And then Gonzaga, MSU, Michigan State, or no, not Michigan. Wait, is it Michigan State?
Michigan State.
MSU. The Spartans.
I think yes, it is Michigan State.
Then Tennessee, University of Kentucky, Michigan. Texas Tech is number 9. And then Houston's actually up. Houston did good on their conference in their conference tournament.
That's good.
Yeah, they did really good because I forgot who were they playing.
Actually, they're doing good as a school. Like their track team, they're 4x4.
Oh yeah,
they're really good.
Pretty known.
Yeah,
well,
and also their basketball teams.
When you have Carl Lewis training them, that's where you kind of okay. Yeah. So going down, FSU, University of Houston at number 11, LSU at 12. A lot of people are saying LSU could actually be up there too in the Elite 8. And then Purdue 13, Auburn at 14, BUF Buffs at 15, Virginia Tech at 16, Kentucky. No, not Kentucky. Kansas at 17. I was surprised Kansas is not doing well this year.
Yeah.
Because then they had like a freshman that was like really good, but now he's like he kind of choked.
Yeah, he did choke. I think his name is Grims, I'll say.
Oh yeah.
Like he came to the coming out of high school, he was ranked like top 3. But then he went to Kansas. Everybody was expecting him to drop at least 20 points.
Yeah.
And now he's struggling to score more than 10. So that was a huge downgrade. And then a lot of people are talking about him like he still has a chance to go to the NBA, but no. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, especially now after this season.
Yeah, after the season, no, I don't think he has like a good chance. But I still believe he's like a good, athlete, a really good basketball player. Maybe next year if he trains really hard this summer, and in this off season, he might become a top pick in the NBA draft in 2020.
Okay. All right, let me finish this off. And then 18 is Kansas State University. 19 is what is this team? WOF. What is this? I think it's like Warford. Warford University. I've never heard of them. And then Nevada University, Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Villanova. I'm surprised by Villanova this year. They won it. They won it last year.
Yeah. And
then Villanova at 23, and then Indiana State at 24, and then Utah State at 25.
Okay. Like I'm a bit surprised on Indiana State and Villanova because like
Indiana State did good in their they won the Big 12 tournament.
But like Villanova, come on.
I know.
Yeah. But also before we wrap this up, I think for me I want to like give a big shout out to the Lady Shaps basketball team.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Yeah, our women's basketball team, they're going to the Elite 8 right now, the national tournament right now. So yeah, good luck to the ladies out there, and we'll be rooting for you back here in Lubbock. We'll definitely have like a watch party.
Let's go Shaps.
Yeah. And just to do like a last segment, I'm gonna just start doing this. If we're going to be doing like the Gen Z guys riddle that you have to solve or you have to figure out, and then when you figure out, you can either comment it in the section of this YouTube episode, or you can direct message us or like comment on our post at the Gen Z _guys. So the riddle is a plane is flying over the border of Canada and America, and a plane crashes. Where do they bury the survivors? So that's our riddle. And so this has been 99.1 Shap Radio. You've listened to the Gen Z guys, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whatever time of the day you're listening to this, and have a wonderful life.
Peace.
Later.